doing this. It is being recorded.
Glad to be here.
Oh, we got one more person coming. Perfect.
So Kwan, do you want us to just go right in, or?
Yeah, let's just go right into covering the composite score section.
Great. All right, so my name is Monte Crobo. I'm one of the presenters along with Don, and we'll be tag teaming and presenting this presentation about choosing a right school for you for middle school as well as high school choice information. So feel free to put your questions in the chat box, and we'll both answer them either during or towards the end of the presentation as well. But thank you for taking the time to come to this presentation, and I'll start with the composite school. So we'll talk about high school and middle school choice. Every student in Baltimore City that is a 8th grader going into 9th grade and a 5th grade that is going into 6th grade has the ability and option to choose a school for them. So they participate in the choice process. It'll determine which high school or middle school that they will attend. 8th graders have to complete a city choice application. Now, that application is going to be online due to COVID pandemic, and it's going to be available along with middle school through what we call Parent Portal or Infinite Campus, and we'll talk about that as well. Now, if you are in, like in this presentation, a 6 through 12 school, such as Baltimore Design School, for example, they offer 9th grade automatically. You'll automatically be accepted into that school because you're currently there. But you also do have an option of choosing another school as well. So you can list other schools as one of your choices if you want to as well. For middle school, these are students who attend a K-5 school as well. They participate in a choice process. If your child is in a K-8 school, you also have the option of doing choice, but you also have the option of remaining in your current school. So you don't have to put in an application for that if you're already in a K-8 school. But you do have an option if you choose to, that you can apply to middle school as well. Next slide. So when it comes to our composite scores and entrance criteria, what normally goes into our composite scores in a typical year, we would do attendance, standardized tests. Those were factored into the composite score along with the academics of the student. However, because of COVID, due to the disruptions, certain things were removed and replaced, if you will. So the cancellation of the MCAT testing percentiles, as well as attendance, that's not going to play a factor into high school choice this year. So what happened was every child, whether it's high school or middle school choice, they were given an automatic number. They started off with a certain amount of points already because we took certain things out. Then the averages, the grades as well, were factored into it. So for advanced academics for middle school, the middle school choice, you started out automatically with the 300. Every child K-5 in 5th grade had a 300. And the overall average from 4th grade as well as the average from 1st quarter of 5th grade was factored into that. Now for high school, the high school student started with a 200. That was the testing percentile that we removed, and now we gave them a 200. Their math average, their English average, their overall average, as well as their 4th quarter of their final average for 7th grade was also factored into their composite score. Next slide. Now, admission into entrance criteria schools. So for city schools, the 610 of City, Poly, Weston, and Dunbar, that threshold isn't being used like it used to be traditionally. Now they're going to be required to still put these schools, but it's going to be a rank order until they're filled. And the reason for that is because of the factoring into, a lot of our students this year had beyond the threshold of a 610. So now they're going to use a rank order in order for those students to be ranked into those schools. With advanced academic programs, the minimum composite score to getting to across country, Francis Scott Key, Mount Royal, Roland Park, Waverly, is a 355. You have to be eligible for admission for that. Now, what that means, and we'll talk about that later on, I'll talk about that as well when it comes to Know Your Fit. That means that you qualify with a 355, but remember, you're competing against other school students as well. So the higher your composite score, the better your ranking will be for these schools. Next slide. This is just an example of the applications, how many students were admitted and the seats into those schools. Now, a lot of our CTE, and we'll touch on what that means later, our career technology schools, they used to have an entrance criteria, but they no longer have one as well this school year. So our children can apply to a Maryville, a Edmondson, a Carver, and they don't have to have an entrance criteria. But as you can see, we had, for example, we'll just take Poly, for example. Poly had 1,347 applicants. They admitted 425 because those were the only seats that were available that particular school year. The point of that is this: we have so many great schools that when it comes to high school choice or middle school choice as well, you want to rank from your first choice to your fifth choice, but you want to make sure that you're selecting at least 5 so that you can get a chance to get into one of those choices. And once again, we'll touch on that later on as well. Next slide. This is just a scenario sometimes we normally do. We're not going to really do the scenario this year when it comes to composite scores. But one of the things that we want to stress when it comes to composite scores is this. If you do not know your child's composite score, we're going to touch on 2 ways that you can get your child's composite score. The first way, which we highly recommend, is our parent portal. You're going to hear myself and Dawn talk about that throughout this presentation because it's so vital for you parents to make sure you have access to parent portal or Infinite Campus as we call it. Not only does it give you access to your child's grades to see the assignments they're doing, you can get an alert if they're missing an assignment, but on the Infinite Campus, you also apply to the school. You can also see your child's composite score before you even apply to those schools. And you can see a current up-to-date status of that. You also later on in the school year with Infinite Campus will get notified as regards to the schools that your child was accepted into. The other way that you can find out your child's composite score is reach out to your middle school or your high school choice liaison at the various schools that your children attend. They have access to the composite scores, they have access to the choice guides, and they're there to provide a resource to give you references, resource, and encouragement when it comes to choosing these schools. We'll now turn it over to Dawn, and she's going to talk about academic programs.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me well? Okay, good. All right, advanced academics and honors classes. Next slide. All right, so we have 2 new additions to the middle school choice process. We have Hamden Elementary Middle School and Walter P. Carter Elementary Middle School. So they're now going to be options for 5th graders who are participating in the middle school choice process. Next slide. Okay, advanced academics. This program provides differentiated academic opportunities for grades 6 through 8. And these students will learn at a faster pace and will benefit from greater depth and breadth in the instruction. And as a result, there'll be a more rigorous courses. Honors curriculum will be in language arts, math, social studies, and science. And with that comes a 10% weight on the composite score. So if your student is in a middle school and taking one of these honors classes or advanced academics, they get a higher rate on that composite score for their core academics, okay? So their scores will weight a little bit more heavier when they take academic courses or honor classes. So if you have a student that's in an elementary course right now and they're doing very well and you want them to take advanced academics, just know that that helps them later on when they're trying to get into high schools. The math and science curriculum is less rigorous than the Ingenuity program and more rigorous than the grade level program. So it's right in between Ingenuity and regular grade level. Next slide, please. Middle schools that offer the advanced academics, okay? So it's these 5 here. We have Cross Country Elementary Middle School, Francis Scott Key Elementary Middle School, Mount Royal Elementary Middle School, Roland Park, and Waverly. So these are the 5 schools that offer the advanced academics. And I'm sure many of you probably have heard of a few of these. Next slide. Now, here's the high schools. High schools that require a minimum composite score. These were those scores. These were those schools, Poly, City, Dunbar, and Western. Okay, next slide. All right, so these are the following schools that do offer honors classes, which are also known as your gifted and advanced learning to middle grade students. I believe you guys will have access to this slide, so you'll know what some of these courses are. I mean, some of these schools that offer that for the honors classes. Sorry, my eyes are burning. Next slide, please. Okay, so we do have some schools that have additional requirements. We have 4 schools. So we have the Baltimore School of Arts. Now, that school, you have to do an audition with an interview, okay? And students can audition in several different things: film, visual arts, instrumental music, dance, theater. Now, you have to go to their website, the BSA website, to apply for an online audition. Now, when you look at these dates, of course, they have passed. But because of COVID, people are a little bit more lenient. So please go to the website. If you can't find the information, if you want your student to go there, please contact someone at the school, because someone should be able to help you. If you can't get in touch with them, then you can talk to your school choice liaison at the school that your student attends now, okay? Then we have BARD. BARD is also a school that has additional requirements. You can list that on the City Schools Choice application. There will be 5 slots for that City Choice School application. If you want your child to attend BARD, you can list that there. They have monthly open houses that are offered on Zoom. This is another school where you want to go to their website and see what days that they offer these open houses, okay? And you have to complete a writing assignment after the open house and schedule an interview, okay? So that's the additional requirements for them. They need a writing assignment, and then you have to have an interview. We also have NAF, which is National Academy Foundation. You can also list this school on the City Schools Choice application. This school serves grades 6 through 12. And for the high school applicants, you have to have an interview, all right? Then we also have BDS, Baltimore Design School. I thought somebody earlier said it was 6 to 12. It is still 60, because it says, okay, so it's 6 to 12, but on here it says, but for grades, for the high schoolers, they have to submit an application online with the school and a portfolio and attend the portfolio review day, okay? Now, if you don't have a portfolio, they have portfolio workshops, and you'll be able to work with a BDS teacher to help you develop a portfolio. So you want to make sure that you contact the school if you are interested in the school. We do have another date available, which is in January 13th. So you can get with them. We have now we move on to the Ingenuity Project. You can go to the next slide. Okay. So the Ingenuity Project, this is for, it offers families a free, highly accelerated and challenging mathematics and science curriculum. There are 4 schools where this is offered for middle school. We have Hamilton, James McHenry, Mount Royal, and Roland Park. It is only located for high school at 1 school, and that's at Baltimore's Polytechnic Institute, which is also known as Poly. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so what makes it unique? The classes, the small math classes, the ratio from student to teacher is 16 students to 1 teacher. It's a very rigorous science and engineering curriculum, which prepares students for advanced coursework in high school. Exposure to the Singapore math program. Your student will have deep mastery of high school algebra by the end of 8th grade. High standards for student performance that fosters academic excellence, strong study skills, and organization. And in order to remain in this program, students are expected to maintain an 80 average. So your student needs to maintain a B average in order to stay enrolled in this program. Within this program, they'll be in a cohort with highly motivated and engaged students. So they will be interacting with their cohort. And it prepares them for math and science competitions. Next slide, please. Now, how do you apply online? Well, the application is actually open right now, okay? You can apply online. It says by mail or hand delivered. I would go with online because it's probably the easiest and fastest way. The application deadline for this year is December 23rd. High school applicants, remember, for the Ingenuity program, it's only one school, and that's Poly. So if you want your student to be in this Ingenuity program, you have to make sure that you also list Poly as their #1 slot on the high school choice form, okay? Because in order for them to participate in Ingenuity, the high school students have to also be accepted to Poly. So they got to have both. They have to be accepted into Poly and be in the Ingenuity program. It can't be they in the Ingenuity program and they go to a different high school. So after you apply, then you have to take the Ingenuity ability test, which happens in February. And I'm sure on the school's website, you can find out when the actual date is going to happen. Or because you applied online, I'm sure they'll contact you and let you know when the actual date. So once you find out that your child has been, you have to wait to find out if your child's been accepted and offered a placement, and the notifications will be mailed around the end of February. Now, this is very important because if you applied for your child to be in this Ingenuity Project program and you took the ability test, they are going to mail you the information. So whichever school your child attends now, please make sure that they have the correct address on file or an address that you have access to, because that's where you're going to receive your answer, okay? So if you are accepted and you receive a letter, make sure you accept that Ingenuity placement. And just to let you know, the Ingenuity ranks applicants based on the Ingenuity composite scores. And location preferences are on it based on the rank. So we talked about rank before. So remember that too. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do you go to apply for Ingenuity Project? You go to the Ingenuity Project website, you click on admissions, and then you click on middle school application or high school application, whatever grade your student applied for. Okay? And here is how you fill it out. You indicate what's your Ingenuity school preferences. Make sure you choose first, second, third, or fourth. And it says Ingenuity programs are citywide. Applicants do not have to live in the school zone. I know somebody asked about zone earlier, but in order to get in this program, you do not have to live in that school that you're choosing. You don't have to live in that zone, okay? So make sure you make your choices. Okay, so Ingenuity composite score. Here's another composite score. So if you want your child to participate in this program, it calculates a composite score for each applicant that is different from the composite score that you heard here before. This one actually includes your MCAP scores from 2019, okay? That test you took. Then it also, depending on what grade you're in, it includes the course grades from either your 4th grade or the 7th grade, and your first quarter grade of either 5th grade or 8th grade, okay? And then you also what's factored in there is the results from the Ingenuity exam. Okay, so it's the COAT for middle school applicants and the COAT in Algebra 1 for high school applicants. Okay, so this one changes up because it's adding the MCAP scores and it's in the Ingenuity exams. Okay, so that's how they're going to get the composite score to see where you rank to be a part of this Ingenuity program. Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, now CTE, Career and Technology. All right, what is it? So it's about 1/4 of Baltimore City Public School high school students are enrolled in a CTE program, and they used to be labeled as trades or majors. And what it does, it gives students the chance to get exposure and experience in a type of career field in which they choose. And most of the times, it's a 3-year program that starts with 10th grade, with the exception of a few. Now, 8th graders can apply to specific CTE programs at Mervo, Carver, and Edmondson. So for example, it might be Mervo, I'm choosing nursing. For my second choice might be Carver Child Care, third choice Edmondson Carpentry, so and so. Okay. Now, in practice, it says acceptance to this program at that school does not necessarily mean you will be placed in that program once you're in the school. Okay, just to let you know. It depends on how many spaces they have open at the time. Now, one of the benefits of the CTE classes is that students have access to work-based learning opportunities such as job shadowing, mentoring from industry professionals, or internships. And most of the CTE students can graduate from high school with an industry certification. Next slide. So here are some of the programs that's offered. If you do a quick glance, you can see some of the health and biosciences, information technology, human resources. This will be available to you guys to look more deeply at it and to work with your student to see what they're interested in. Next slide. Here are all the high schools with CTE programs. There's several across the city, and they offer great programs. It depends on what your student wants to do, interested in. Please take a look at that when you get this slide. Next slide. Okay, so middle schools also, some schools also have CTE programs. Okay, theirs is called. It says students at the following schools have the opportunity to participate in challenging pre-engineering project Lead the Way program called Gateway to Technology. Okay, so these few schools offer a CTE program in middle school. We have Berkeley, Cross Country, Glenmount, Hazelwood, Lakeland, and Roland Park. So if you would like your child to possibly get involved in a CTE program, which is Project Lead the Way for pre-engineering, you have the opportunity. These are the schools. Next slide. Okay, here's another program that's really nice, PTech. Next slide. All right, so why choose PTech? It's several reasons. It addresses post-secondary degree completion. It aids in the transition between high school, college, and the professional world. With PTech, the student has to commit to a 6-year program because they're not only going to get their high school diploma, but they're also going to get a tuition-free associate's degree. And it's designed for students who are the first in their families to attend college. And then it's also designed to motivate and enable more students to earn a college degree. And it prepares graduates with the workplace skills that is required by most employers. So next slide, please. Now, let's see. Okay. For PTech, let's see what programs we have. At Dunbar, there are 3 health career pathways: nursing, respiratory care, and physical therapy. Then at Carver, they have 2 information technology careers: cybersecurity, computer information systems. And then for the last one is at New Era and at Seagoing. So looking at these PTech careers, there are a lot of them. I mean, a few of them are really hot right now. So this is a good program. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about how to get admitted into a PTech program. So the students can apply to PTech programs on their city schools choice application. These prospective PTech students will also need to interview with the coordinator of the program that they're applying to. So if it's at Dunbar, they're going to have to interview with the coordinator of the 3 nursing programs at Dunbar, okay? And they'll usually reach out to applicants to schedule their interview during the last week of January and the first week of February. Next slide. Okay. Now, charter schools. That's another one that we should look at. Charter schools are independent. They are city schools, but they're independently operated. Okay, so the way they instruct the kids may be different. They may have different instructional themes, and the population may be different from regular city schools. Okay, next slide. Now, applying to charter schools. To find out the best information about a charter school is to go to their school's website. Most of the time, you're going to find all the information you need right there. Now, if you cannot find that, do not hesitate to contact the school. They do not mind giving you information. Also, you probably can talk to your city, your school's choice liaison at your current school if you have other questions. Each school has its own application. Most of them are online. So you want to make sure when you go to that website or you call the school that you try to get all the admission processes and procedures down pat so that you don't miss the due dates. Most of the applications will be due in February. Now, this is the big thing, guys. Most do not go on the city schools choice form, okay? It's only 2 schools that go there. We have Connections and Independence. Those are the only 2 that go on the city schools choice form. That's a tongue twister for me. Okay, so that form, 5 schools go on it. They are not charter schools. So what we'd like you to do is we'd like you to go ahead and fill out this city schools choice form. Put 5 city schools on there that you really, really like and want your child to go to. And if you want to attend a charter school, please go on their website and fill out their application also, okay? This is covering you, okay? This is looking out for you. Because if you don't get accepted into that charter school and you don't fill out this city choice form, they're going to place you wherever they feel like placing you. And by not being really zone schools like that anymore, you could be placed somewhere with 3 buses, okay? So you want to make sure you fill out the city schools choice form and you only put on there the city schools unless it's Connections and Independence, okay? Now, with the charter school, they may hold a lottery to figure out which applicants are actually going to attend their school. That's how they work it out. So once you put your application in, they have a bunch of applications. If the number exceeds how many seats they have available, they're going to do a lottery, okay? Next slide. All right, now I'm going to pass it back over so you can learn about how to know your student's school fit.
Wow, that's a lot, right? Charter schools, CTE schools, Ingenuity, Apply. Man, you got a lot to do. We know, but it's worth it. And this part of the presentation, we really talk about know your fit because let's be honest, parents, you know your children. You know them better than us. We try to help as much as possible, but you know your student. So we're gonna do something different this time, and our colleagues are gonna watch the chat box. I just want you guys to just write down in the chat, or you can come off of mute even if you want. But tell us 3 things that you think are essential when it comes to picking a high school or middle school for your child. And like I said, you can unmute and just give us an answer.
Academics.
Or academics, yes, there's definitely one.
I also like the clubs and the activities.
Clubs and activities, definitely. That's one. Great response. And let's see, one more that you would say think is vital.
Oh, and definitely for me, I do try to focus on my child talents and
Thank you.
abilities.
Thank you, Miss Kenya. Appreciate that. And we're gonna answer your question that you put in the chat box as well soon.
Okay, no problem.
Yep. So knowing your student is definitely important. And Miss Kenya touched on it. Academics. What subjects do they like best? Their talents, clubs they want to do, careers they're interested in. Do they plan on going to a university? The atmosphere. Now, those six are really crucial. And knowing your fit falls within those six because here's the reason why. If your child is at a school that, let's say they're used to 200, 300, 400 students, it might be a difficult jump to go to a school that now there's 1,500, now there's 1,000, now there's bigger class sizes. Let's say they never caught the bus before. And Ms. Dawn just touched on the last one. Let's say their school may have to take 3 buses. How are they going to get to school? Do you want them to even catch a bus? Also, when it comes to the subjects, Ms. Dawn touched on CTE. She touched on Ingenuity, advanced academic programs. Well, let's just say your child may not be as strong in math and science. Does that mean that they can't get into a good school? No. But you also know that school that may focus more on math and science might not be the number one choice for your child. And that's fine because we have so many other great schools. Let's say they're stronger in language arts. They may even want to be a writer. Well, maybe finding a school that could fit that. Or let's say with art, they want to draw, they want to act. Maybe they want to know behind the scenes, the technical things behind the scenes of art. Well, guess what? We have schools for that as well. So knowing your student is very crucial when it comes to making these choices. Next slide. Now, these are just some examples. As you see, they're filled them out, and this is one of the forms that we normally use to gauge knowing our student. Next slide, please. And this is also another a form we normally use and recommend sometimes, thinking about the choices, thinking about the schools that you're interested in. Does it align with your family's goals? Does it align with the must-have and must-haves for my school? Researching, looking into the school. That goes a long way into making these choices. Next slide. And as you can see, we just did an example of it. Does it meet your criteria? But having a checklist, families, is very important because you have the option of picking a great school for your child. But knowing what you want out of that school is very important. You don't want a school just because of name recognition, but you haven't done a research on the school. These schools are going to be setting your children up for careers, and you want them to make the best decision along with you when it comes to their schools. Next slide, please. So how can you do that? Well, several ways. One, you can use the tools from Baltimore City Public Schools where you can compare schools and you can find out the information on what you need. Now, when we talk about the compare schools tool, we're not talking about is one school better than the other. Like, we're not going to put that on a website and say, oh, this is better than this one. But we want you to compare the school to see if it fits your criteria versus another school. See if it has what you're looking for versus another school. Maybe you're in between 2 schools. You just want to see which school offers more programs tailored to your goals versus the other one. And that could be number 1, then the other one could be number 2. But use the tools on Baltimore City Schools website. Next slide as well. Same thing when it comes to high school, same thing about choices. Next slide. And before we talk about the process and timeline, when it also comes to knowing your school, we talked about using the tools. Use the Compare Tools website. Use our website that's dedicated for school choice. We have our, and Don is going to touch on this more in this process and timeline piece. But we have the City School Choice Fair is virtual, is at your availability all the way until January 22nd. Use that. Look at the different presentations on that website. Look at the articulations. Now, because of the forecast, our articulations may have been moved around for middle school. We had our high school articulations last week, but you can go right onto that website again, look at those articulations. In fact, if you drop down after you pick one of the schools, you might see a video from either the principal, maybe the counselor, maybe even be students that are telling you about their school. But take advantage of those tools as well when it comes to know your student. Do trial runs. Yeah, one of the best things I'm also a high school choice liaison at my school, and I tell my families all the time, if you've never caught the bus before, think about doing that. If you're going to have your child catching the bus, see how long it takes them to get to that school, so you can gauge if that's something that you want to do. You might find out it's too far, and you may have to look at another school. But know your student, know the fit for your school, and use all of the tools around for the best option. We're going to turn it back over to Dawn. She's going to talk about choice process and timelines, and we're going to show you that parent portal that we keep talking about.
Hey, Monty, did you want to answer Kenya's question about
Yeah.
safe? Okay,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
Ms. Kenya asked the question that if your second choice school accepted you first, or you dropped from all other school choices?
So yes, like I said, very good question. So in order of your rank that you put your choices, you may not get your first choice. You may get your second choice. If you get your second choice, what they normally typically do in the past is they don't even go to your third, fourth, or your fifth choice. They put you in that second choice. Now, I will tell you, there has been occasions where some students were waitlisted. They may have got one choice and waitlisted off of the other ones, but typically they try to put you in that one selection that you got accepted into. And we'll go in this part of the presentation. We'll talk about the wait list and what you have to do after that. But typically, if you get your second choice, so you don't get number one, but you get number two, they won't accept you in the 3, 4, 5 typically, because they're going to give you that second choice.
All right. Okay. So, all right. Next slide. City choice schools. Okay. We have the city school choice lottery. Now, as I said before, how many are we ranking? How many schools are we putting on our list? 5 schools. Okay. So every current city school student must complete the choice application online through Infinite Campus. And that's what Mr. Monty kept talking about to you guys about the Infinite Campus. Okay. If you don't know how to access it, you can contact your school's choice liaison right away. All right. And before, just another insight of the Infinite Campus one more time. That's where you can see your kids' grades immediately. You do not have to wait for a report card to be mailed to you. That's where you can see their attendance. You can get notified when they fail a class. It's so much that can happen on there, okay? And it's also an app for your phone, so you don't have to just always go to the website. It's an app. So make sure that the school your child wants to attend the most is listed as your number one spot. And then from there on, especially if you use the worksheet that Mr. Monty told you to use of ranking your schools as to which ones you want to go to, you can go from there and you probably will know which your number one and number two spots, okay? Remember, please do not list charter schools that have their own admission lotteries on the application. There were only 2 charter schools that could be listed on the application. Once again, that was Connections and Independence. Any other charter school, you need to make sure you go to their website and complete their admissions application, okay? So you can be in their lottery. Admissions determined by lottery if the number of applicants is greater than number of seats. So if they have 500 seats available and 800 people apply, once they fill up the 500 seats, the rest of the 300 will enter, either a wait list, or everybody will probably be in the lottery period because they had over the number that they were expecting. But the rest of the people that didn't get accepted will go on a wait list. How to submit your application. Current students can go to BaltimoreCitySchools.org/campus or Infinite Campus. Remember the deadline, January 22nd is when applications are due. 5 schools. Next slide. Okay, logging on to Campus Portal. Is this where it's new now? This,
Yes, it is.
okay.
So
Do you want to talk about this?
yeah,
Okay.
so I'll tag team with Ms. Dawn on this. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna show you an example of how to log in because it's because we tailored it with the years is slightly just a little different. So you're still going to put your username and your password in. If you don't have a username or password at your school, there was a letter at the beginning of the year to all parents, and it has what's called an activation key or an activation code. You're going to put that in first, and then you will set up your username and your password. Once you have your username and password, you'll log in. And then I'm going to share my screen for just one quick second. So once you log in, this is where you will come at. This is your Infinite Campus. And like Ms. Dawn was saying, you have access to your child's grades, your assignments, updates, attendance, their schedule. You can also change the language over here if you need Spanish or a different language. You get alerts right here. It tells you maybe they passed the test, maybe a test is coming up, maybe they missed an assignment, but all of your notifications will come here. But for high school or middle school choice, you want to go here to more. Click on more, and then you will go down to quick links, and you'll see academic progress. You'll then click on academic progress, and your child will come up. If you have multiple children, same thing with their card. You then want to go here to choice application. Once you click on choice application, you'll see this, and it'll say no application found. The reason? Because you didn't submit the application yet. You will then click on no application found, and now as you can see, information will come up. You can also correct your address if it's not correct. Your test scores will come up. And remember, we talked about the composite score. Well, your composite score will come up right here. So now you see what your child's composite score is. So then, once you see that, you go right here to school choice. You can even view the choice guide here if you haven't seen it yet. And then you put your 5 choices. Once you select your 5 choices, you'll hit save. And then you'll get a message that says that your application is saved. Right here. It tells you your application has been saved. And notice this, it says no further action is required. Notice, because this is key, unless you would like to change your choices before the application deadline. So you can go back and forth when it comes to changing your mind. That's important because I'm going to be honest, not only as an educator in the building, but as a middle school choice and high school choice liaison rather, people will change. They'll say, oh, you know what? I wanted to go to city, but guess what? We did a trial run and that's too far for me. I would like my child now to go over to the east side and pick an east side school. That's fine. You can change up until January 22nd. But that's how you access Infinite Campus or Parent Portal, as we call it. And it, like I said, that's for your choice, as well as Ms. Dawn was saying, for your grades.
Thank you. All right, let's talk about our timeline, guys. Next slide. Well, we didn't take that out. But these were the virtual open houses. They happened in October. If you still want a virtual open house from a school that you like, please make sure you contact the school. An open house is a way for you to see the school without it being in session. So you probably will meet staff and be able to talk to them online. So please contact the school that you would like to have an open house at. Next. This past November, your child, if they were in the 5th or 8th grade, they would have received their first quarter report cards, and that goes towards that composite score to help rank it. Okay. So they should have them. And if you have that Infinite Campus, like Mr. Monty showed you, then you should already see some of those things in there. Okay. Also, the middle and high school choice guide. You saw that link he showed you there before you choose the schools you want to go to. That is also there in Infinite Campus, but you can go on the Baltimore City Schools website to see this also. Okay. And that has all the locations and the bus lines and the things like that that you need to know about the schools. Then for December, which we're in this month, there's a virtual choice school fair. The composite scores are distributed and the Ingenuity Project applications are due. So you heard me talk about Ingenuity applications. Now, and that's due December 23rd, next week. The virtual school choice fair that began December 4th and is going on to January 22nd. Yes, January 22nd. So it's a virtual online fair, so you can learn about the different schools that are available that you can put on your city schools choice form. I didn't know if Mr. Monty wanted to say anything about that, or are you good?
No, you covered it, but
Okay.
it's like Ms. Dawn said, it's accessible, and it doesn't not just the schools, but it's a nice section in there too where you can actually see performances from the school, so you get a glimpse of some of the things that your students will be doing.
And Mr. Kawan put it in the chat for you guys. Okay, so if you want to go there, copy that, and you can learn more about it. Thank you, Monty. All right, next slide. Okay, so like I said before, the composite scores are distributed. If you have Infinite Campus, you can see it there. You don't have to worry about getting it in the mail. Now, next month, January, that's when the City Schools Choice application is due. So before we move, okay, that's fine. Yep, stay right there. So the deadline is January 22nd, okay? Now, can somebody put in the chat, how many schools are we going to put on this form? How many schools should you put on this form? Or you can just say it out loud. Ms. Kenya, you can talk if you want to. 5. Yes, thank you, Miss Kenya. And Miss Kenya, since you are so participant, thank you. Such a great participant. One more question. Should we be putting any charter schools on there? Really?
No.
Exactly. So it's 2. It's only 2. Connections and independence. Good job, Miss Kenya. So as Miss Kenya said, we need 5 schools to go on that choice application. And except for 2, charter schools do not go on there. You go to their website and complete their application. Please make sure you do that. Also, one other thing, please don't put the same school on there twice. Okay? Because you're messing yourself up. Please don't think because you put it on there twice, you're going to win. You're not. Okay? You
Ms.
will.
Dawn, can I just add to that?
Yeah,
because
go
actually
ahead.
this year, they won't even allow you to put it on there.
Great.
If you try, they won't. You can't even save your application.
Great. Thank you for letting us know that. So if you're filling it out at Infinite Campus, it's not even going to let you put it in there twice, okay? So make sure you choose 5 different schools. Take the time to do your research. It's very important. Next slide. February, the charter school applications are due. Remember, go on their website, do some research, see what you need to do to get your kids there. Next slide. All right. You see that? Same thing. Do your research. March 2021. That's when the first round of school assignment letters are sent out. It's when you get a little butterfly in your stomach when you see that letter to see where you're going to go. Okay. So you'll find out for the first round. All right. Okay. So remember this, like I said before, make sure your school has the correct address on file so that you can get that information. Now, as Mr. Monty said, that information will also show up in Infinite Campus. I tell you, COVID had some bad things happening, but COVID also caused people to step up their game, okay? So because of that, now everything is digital. You can see where your kid is going. You can see it faster. You don't have to worry about a letter, but it's still important to have your address up to date. And you can make sure it's up to date in Infinite Campus like Mr. Monty showed you, okay? Each school manages its own wait list. So if you receive a letter saying, hey, you're on the wait list for Mervo, you can contact the school to get an update. And Monty, just shake your head yes or no for me, right? If you're on a wait list, Will it also show up in Infinite Campus? Okay, good. Infinite Campus is something y'all need to download, okay? Make sure you got it. Make sure you got it. All right. And if you enroll, if you are accepted, make sure you, if you are chosen to go to a school, make sure you accept it, okay? Now, my child was accepted to a charter school. What do I do next? If you plan to enroll, then you want to follow this charter school's instructions to complete that enrollment. Most will have a deadline for you to accept or decline. So, for instance, if you want your child to go to Bliss, right? Bliss. If you get accepted, you need to make sure you say, hey, I want my child to go to that school. Because if you just sit back like, oh, they accepted me, I must be in there, you may lose your spot. Okay. And that will crush you and your child's dreams. Okay. So you want to make sure you accept it. And then for the city schools programs or schools that accepted you from that application, make sure you decline those schools. Because if you don't, the city will have those schools from that choice school application listed as the school you are enrolled in. So you need to make sure you decline from the schools that was accepted on the city schools choice application. All right. All right, next slide. April 2021. Decline form, deadline, and then a second round of city schools applications. Next slide. So this is the decline form. If you, like I said, if your child was accepted into a charter school and also accepted into another city schools, then you want to make sure you decline whichever one you're not going to go to. Make sure you decline it, because the city will say, oh no, you're supposed to go to New Era. This is the one you had on that application, okay? And you want to go to Bliss, okay? So make sure you got that right. Next slide. Okay, so this second round of choice applications, you can only apply for schools that have space available. So now, from my guessing with the Infinite Campus, when you go with that second round, I'm sure only the schools that have space are going to show up in those drop-down boxes. Now, make sure, well, they're going to force you. No, if you go on there and fill it out. You got to choose from the ones that they have available. So if you don't like those schools, think about your backup schools. Go back and do your research quickly to see if you can come up with some other schools you might want so that you can see that list. Because when you receive it in the mail, they're going to show you the schools that still have availability. Okay. So you can go do your research and see if you want to do that. Okay. Go there. All right. Next slide. Any questions? You can contact your school choice liaison or the fund to get more information. Thank you.
And I just want to add one more thing that Ms. Dunn was talking about as well. And this is something that we feel is so vital as well. When we talk about, your choices and all of the great choices that you have in doing your research, because that we're changing, because city schools is changing the rank or the admission to certain schools, really know the rank. And what we mean by that is this. If your child has a 617 and the 610 composite score gets you able to apply to a school, remember that there are kids in Baltimore City that may have a rank of 780, 790 to 800. And remember, we said it's a ranking order. So you may have a 610 in your school, but you may be going against children who have 700, 780s and things of that nature. So that's why we talk about picking 5 schools realistically that you know that your child wants to go to, but also qualify and could get in. A 610, and you put that on, for Poly City, Dunbar as your first choice, you're not going to get that, because there are going to be kids who are in the 700s that are going to get ranked before you. And if those slots are filled faster, then you just lost your first choice. You just lost the slot. So really make sure when you're doing the research, as Ms. Dawn said, you put those schools that, one, your child qualifies for, but 2, those are the ones you realistically want, that your child can get into and that you want for your child.
All right, so that brings our workshop to a close today. If one more opportunity for any questions in the chat briefly, if there's any questions, please put them in. If not, I hope you guys learned a lot. Again, you always can reach out to us, ffee.org, and utilize our website and the resources we have there. Definitely utilize School Choice Workshop, City Schools Workshop, City Schools website, and your School Choice Liaison is your biggest resource at this point in time. So see no questions as of right now. Oh, you have one?
Quickly, we do have a survey that we will send to you afterwards, just so we can get your feedback on how we did and how useful this was, and it will help us make improvements for the future.
Thank you all so much for doing this. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Ms. Kenya, thank you so much for your questions. We hope that we were able to answer them.
Yes, it was very informative. I thank you so very much.
Good luck.
Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a
All
great
right.
night.
All right. Have a
You
good night,
too.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.